AITIC is.
I see why you
I was never a school teacher, but I guess that's what like being a school teacher, right? Good afternoon. This is the second hearing of the Joint Committee on Advanced IT, the Internet, and Cybersecurity. We have a lot of bills on the docket today, and a lot of people signed up to testify. I'll ask that everyone respect the 3-minute time limit so we can hear from everyone. As is customary, we call legislators out of turn to speak. If you feel like you've already heard testimony that reflects your position, please feel free to just say you agree and then submit your testimony in writing. A sign-up sheet is outside in the hallway for anyone who is here today who wants to testify and has not already signed up. The committee is accepting written testimony until Monday, July 14th at 5 p.m. Instructions on submitting written testimony are on the website for this hearing. So I am Senator Michael Moore. I'm the chair of the Joint Committee on the Senate side, and I'm also joined here today by committee member Senator Michael Barrett. And I'm going to turn it over now to the the current chair on the House side, who's been delayed with, I guess, flooding issues on the Turnpike. So the vice chair on the House side, Representative Jim Hawkins, is going to be taking control for the House on their side.
Thank you for the introduction. This is very flattering to be even for a minute to be chair. So thank you. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the House members that are part of the committee who are here, which would include Rep. Moakley, Rep. Owens, Rep. Willett, Rep. Messino, and Rep. Pedulla. And thank you.
That's it?
Well, it's a small but dynamic committee. We're doing the most important work in our whole.
So one thing, before we opened the hearing, we had court officers come in on several occasions saying that we were too noisy. So out of respect for the people testifying, when you testify, people in the audience, obviously hold your conversations down, and when you testify, just announce who you are and what organization you are with, if you are with an organization. But again, we were told twice that another hearing going on, they were having problems hearing people trying to testify there. So we are going to start off by taking the first person out of order, who was also a committee member, Senator Barrett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, happy to be here. Thank you for taking me out of turn, Senator. I'm here to testify on an act to modernize funding for community media programming. I apologize, I have the docket numbers rather than the final numbers, but I know that you can cross-translate here. It's House docket 326 and Senate docket 399. Since I know they've been given their regular bill numbers. I want to associate myself with testimony you'll be hearing later today from Peter Pedulla, the Executive Director of Chelmsford Community Television, with whom I worked on these issues. Fundamentally, as you all know, a migration is underway among consumers, Mr. Chairman, away from cable and toward streaming services and packages of streaming services. What we haven't done is permit the revenue streams to migrate along with the movement towards cord cutting and towards reliance on independent streaming in lieu of reliance on cable. So we're seeing an evisceration of funding sources as the cable cutting proceeds. We'd like to simply effect a rather simple change in which streaming services are subject to the same levies currently appended to cable, so that community TV can continue to function and continue to have access to revenue as customers change their preferences. That's essentially what this bill is about. Community cable in my district, it varies by the town and city, but it's incredibly important where individual activists within the community have made it so and have committed a lot of volunteer hours to making it so. So in Chelmsford, but also in Waltham and in several other communities, this this becomes an absolutely key source of information, especially given the disappearance of print newspapers. Community access is about all we've got as sources of community news, and the revenue is going to decouple from the usage unless we effect a change in statute. And so I commend the committee's attention to this particular legislation.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for being, I'm sure you're not the last person to speak about this, but thank you for being first. And I'll ask you what's on my mind about this. Can you talk more about the availability of local news that this will enable?
Yeah, we have seen essentially the complete disappearance in the 8 communities represented that I represent of what used to be the weekly newspaper. I had one daily 10 years ago, the Waltham News Tribune, and 7 weeklies. None of them currently publish effectively. The patch has taken over a few pro forma activities online, but essentially we get nothing. Now the good news is twofold. We are seeing the appearance of independent weeklies that so far haven't figured out a business model that will permit them to sustain over years, but they're popping up. Many of them are not advertising based, which means that there could be problems for them downstream. They're subscription based. They depend on some philanthropic contributions. They're doing a great job, but actually their future is going to be in some question for a number of years until they get situated. Community access television is the one stable source of news. And at a time when the old has been washed away, and I'm talking about cable, I'm talking about print media, and the new streaming services and independent news publications haven't quite come aboard, community access is the only source of stability in this local news environment. It's crucial to my district, and so I thank you for the question.
Well, it is to mine as well, but I wanted you to. You're eloquent. I wanted to hear your description. So thank you.
I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Thank you, Senator.
Oh, any other questions?
You run a tight ship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we have a virtual testimony. We have Representative Barrett online. Representative. What's that?
Sorry about that. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to thank you for letting my father precede me today in his testimony. He gets very upset if he doesn't go first. So, anyways,
Sadly, I think he's already left. He had to take a nap.
Well, you know, he's getting up there. Anyways, I'm pleased to submit testimony in support of H72, and my voice is gone with the allergies that are around, but my apologies. The Department of Telecommunications and Cable is mandated by Massachusetts General Law 6166A and federal statutes to review and approve to monitor all cable licenses, agreements between municipalities and providers. Despite this fact, many communities, especially smaller or rural ones, face a significant disadvantage when negotiating with major cable providers. H72 addresses this imbalance by enforcing the DTC's oversight authority and encouraging a more consistent and transparent process by ensuring that all contracts undergo thorough and regular legal and regulatory review. This bill protects communities from unfair terms and helps guarantee access to essential services. Oversight is more critical now than ever. Cable and broadband remain core infrastructure for education, business, and civic engagement. At the same time, residents are facing rising costs and increased service complexities, such as a recent directive from the Massachusetts Department of Revenue that imposes new sales tax charges on modern cable boxes with advanced features. Without strong regulatory safeguards, consumers may be left without recourse when confronted with unfair pricing or inadequate service. H72 does not expand DTC's authority so much as reaffirm it, clarifying the department's role in improving transparency and effectiveness of cable contract oversight. It will also help ensure that agreements are not only legally sound, but fair and enforceable, and that the interests of Massachusetts communities are protected. I'm very concerned about what is going on at DTC today. In the past week or so, we called over there and asked how many contracts have been settled or haven't been settled. Right now, the answer that we got yesterday was at any one time, there could be over 500 contracts that are there for review, which is absurd when you think about it, that there's only 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. So there may be more in some of the other communities, I don't know. But that's an extraordinary number, which means that the contract, which might have been negotiated by a community, can wait as much as 12 months before it gets approval from the DTC. I think we've got a serious problem that has to be addressed, especially in this day and age. And I don't think there's a member of the legislature that hasn't heard complaints about the rising costs of cable television as well as broadband. It has gone out of sight and will continue to, and it's time that the state step into it. And I believe, as part of this legislation very quickly, is that they should be reporting to your committee at least twice a year as to the number of contracts that remain unapproved. I thank you for your listening to me today, and I respectfully urge the committee to issue a favorable report on H72.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go back out of order. We have Representative Arciero here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, appreciate it keeping me out of order. Thank you to the chairman and members of the Joint Committee on Advanced Information Technology. I am here today to ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 91, an act to modernize funding for community media programming. This legislation is an essential step towards ensuring that Massachusetts communities continue to benefit from locally driven, non-commercial media content that is responsive to the unique educational, governmental, and cultural needs of each municipality. Westford Cat, my hometown community access station in the town of Westford, is an essential part of civic life in my hometown. Whether it's broadcasting select board and school committee meetings, covering high school sports and events, or providing residents with important updates from town departments and community organizations. Westford Cat, which I'm hopeful you'll be hearing from at some point during the hearing today, ensures that government is transparent and information is accessible to all in our hometown. These programs have traditionally been funded by cable franchise fees. However, with the shift to streaming entertainment platforms, traditional revenue sources have steadily declined and have put access in jeopardy, just as the demand for local, accessible content continues to grow. This legislation appropriately recognizes that streaming entertainment providers utilize public rights of way and should therefore contribute to the public good in return, just as cable operators have done for years. By creating a fair and modern assessment on streaming entertainment providers, the bill establishes a necessary revenue stream that will support community media centers, municipalities, and the Commonwealth as a whole. I urge the committee to swiftly advance this bill and ensure community media centers are not left behind the digital age. Thank you for taking me out of turn, Mr. Chairman. And if there's any questions, please.
Any questions? Representative Hawkins.
Chair Arciero, thank you for your testimony on this. You're not the first one to testify, so I've already made comments, but this is an issue in my community with the local newspaper has been bought out by a big conglomerate, and local access is what we have available for good, timely local news. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Two representatives that are going to join us as a panel. So we have Representative Scarsdale and Representative Machino.
Good afternoon, Chairs Farley Bouvier and Moore, and honorable members of the committee.
Would you
In the
introduce yourself
spirit-
for the audience?
Oh, pardon?
Would you introduce yourself for the audience?
Yes. I am Margaret Scarsdale. I'm the state representative for the 1st Middlesex District, Ashby, Dunstable, Groton, Lunenburg, Pepperell, and Townsend. Thank you for taking us out of turn in the spirit of the Dalai Lama. I will say I am grateful for that. I am here today testifying on House Bill 91, an act to modernize funding for community media programming, filed jointly with Rep. Machino and Senator Lewis. So simply put, this bill is about protecting a lifeline, one that keeps people connected, informed, engaged, and even entertained. Our community media centers, like the one in my district and your districts, are there to broadcast local government meetings, high school sports, concerts, and even cooking shows. And they are especially important to our seniors and residents who aren't always able to be in person. For them, our local access channels are a trusted and accessible way to stay connected. And even more as our local newspapers go under or are gobbled up by other entities, it's really the only way for many of us to be a part of something and to stay connected. But funding has fallen sharply with the majority of viewership shifting from traditional cable streaming to the streaming providers from traditional cable companies. So it puts this lifeline at risk. And that's because, unlike traditional cable companies, streaming providers do not pay anything for using local infrastructure to distribute their media to customers. By modernizing the law and having streaming services pay the same cost that cable providers pay for the use of local infrastructure, we can restore a vital revenue source to our municipalities that our local media centers absolutely rely on. Now, some will argue that the cost to keep community media centers running will somehow fall unfairly on communities, but in reality, what is unfair is allowing big streaming companies like Netflix and Hulu and HBO to profit while local media stations are forced to close their doors. Massachusetts has one of the strongest media center networks in the country, and we would not be the first to enact such a law. Florida, Iowa, Nebraska, North Carolina, South Dakota has such a law, and I respectfully ask for a favorable report for H91. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Representative. And thank you to the chairs for allowing me to come around and testify today in support of our bill. I'm Joan Moschino, representing the 3rd Plymouth District, the communities of Hingham, Hull, and Cohasset, and I have fabulous community media centers. And I've been engaging with Mass Access. And you're going to hear testimony from Mass Access. You're going to hear testimony from a lot of the community media centers here in person today, and I know you've already gotten a lot of written testimony, and it's going to keep coming because to uplift my colleagues' remarks, we are now at the point where we've really hit that critical tipping point. I think the heyday of the cable franchise subscriptions was probably 2013, 2014, and we've started to see a decline in those cable subscriptions, which is why everybody else's cable costs have gone up, right, to try to equalize that out. And over that time, over those 10 plus years, we've been seeing that decline in revenues. But what's come of it initially was innovations, a lot of efficiencies, and in fact, it's a vibrant ecosystem that's out there that is doing tremendous content, as you've heard from my colleague, from Senator Barrett, from Rep. Arciero earlier. But we've now hit that point where they're not going to be able to keep pace. And it is at the same point, interestingly enough, when the demand for this public programming has really become a premier. And in fact, there are bills out there about, requiring this kind of programming. So I think we're at an inflex moment where we really need to think about how we replace that revenue. And so we made choices in this legislation to update the existing law. It worked really well. You're going to hear it and see it. You've already got the testimony in writing to prove it. And it's at the point now where we really need to start keeping pace with the technology and the way that consumers are consuming their entertainment media. So that's all we're doing, is we're following to these new companies to that innovation, and we're replacing that revenue, because that's the goal of this whole bill, is to have a stable, steady, reliable source of income for all of this important work. For transparency in government, for fantastic programming, for the innovation. And in fact, I'll just use my own community as an example. They are now starting to stretch into training and creating career paths for students, and they're bringing people in for both content and for production, and they're meeting all of the demands of the traditional PEG. And I don't want to get us to a point where we find out what happens if we lose this funding. So I feel that this is a refile. We've worked with the committee in the past, and I've hoped to work with the committee continuing to advance these. And I do just want to also give a shout out to Senator Lewis, is Senate 41, and Representative Vieira also filed a bill on this, House 106. So it's timely, it's relevant, and I think it's ready. So we look forward to working with you, and you're going to hear we're happy to answer questions, but you're going to hear some really great testimony shortly.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Hawkins.
Thank you. You know, I've asked questions from the first couple of people that testified on this, and it's important to my district. But do you have, if you can you comment? One of the issues we have now is, can we believe what we're hearing, or is what we're hearing on the news filtered? And I'm thinking that it would be better coming from a local source. It certainly is in my community. Do you have any comments on that?
So we have seen, in addition to this, one of the other confluences is these media news deserts. The local, we always used to have, so I had 4 local weekly papers, and they were the ones that were sitting in those select board meetings. They were the ones at the high school, hockey team. They were the ones that were at the plate. They were the ones doing the man's on the street at every event, and they're gone. There's only one left. It's the Hull Times, and they're struggling. We used to have the Patriot Ledger, Gannett Media. They're nowhere to be found. There is no local content in there whatsoever. WATD is our sort of regional radio. They try. There's only so much they can do. And the online papers that are starting to appear they are local, but they're very focused on their own interests. It's not the journalism that we're used to when, so the standard reporter was in that select board meeting staring you down, and God forbid you said something, and they had all the history, and they would follow it, and they would ask those penetrating questions. And I think right now, transparency is such a huge piece of what the legislature is thinking about, and these are all conflating here. This is the last bastion of trusted news sources, and I think we're all at a crisis point, and I don't know how to save the weekly papers, but I know how to save this.
Thank you. Great question, Mr. Vice Chair. I just want to uplift my own communities. So I serve 6 small communities. 4 of them do not even have a traffic light. And the newspaper that now services us, as Rep. Machino said, for us, you used to be, at the select board, and that reporter was there, and they would ask you questions during the meeting or after, like they were following it. Now the Lowell Sun has bought up those newspapers, and they cover 16 towns. So, you get a 4-page newspaper and maybe some things mentioned, but there's not the detail about, issues of importance to the community and, just an attempt to educate. So it really is, it's become a desert in my area.
And I'll just briefly comment. Thank you for your longstanding work on this issue. In Pittsfield, and the center of the Berkshires, Pittsfield Community Television. Without them, I don't know. They are literally set up in City Hall. They cover every single public meeting that we have. They were very much a part of virtual testimony during COVID. They're really a center of what we do, and we are lucky enough to have a local daily. At locally owned local daily. Yes. And, but we, I very much think that this is a very important thing to do. How to get there is the problem ahead of us. So anyway, thank you for your great work, and I'm looking forward to further testimony today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, like everyone else, thank you. This is a great cause, and thank you for working with us at the end of the last session on the language, which we now have before us, and hopefully you'll have a very short positive stay in this committee.
We're going to hold you to that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, chairpersons and members of the committee.
Just announce who you are, please.
Yes, my name is Rob Chapman. I am the executive director of BevCam in Beverly, and I also serve on the board of directors and as clerk of Mass Access. I'm here to voice strong support for H106, H91, and S41, bills that aren't just about funding media, they're about preserving public trust, access, and civic inclusion. Across Massachusetts, community media centers are on the front lines of democracy. We don't just film meetings, we connect residents to their schools, town halls, zoning boards, and elections. We make government visible and participation possible. But our foundation is cracking. In the past 2 years, WCCA TV in Worcester has lost $287,000 in cable revenue. Focus Springfield has lost over $143,000. HC Media in Haverhill is down more than $116,000. And it's not just dollars, it's impact. As one director put it bluntly, we are expected to do more with less. Another added, the continuing drop in our cable television revenue has caused us to cut staffing. Fairhaven TV said, we've seen a steady decrease due to customers switching from cable to streaming. That's the shift that this legislation directly addresses. H106, H91, and S41 do what common sense and fairness demand. They ask streaming companies using our public rights of way to contribute to the civic infrastructure that keeps our communities informed. These aren't taxes, they're compensation for using public assets, just like cable companies have paid for decades. And unlike vague state-level funding, these bills direct funds to PEG centers where they belong. They also restore fairness over time. Winchester's Media Center notes that their best year was 2017, over $438,000 in support. Today, it's significantly lower. H106, H91, and S41 would help restore centers like these to peak funding through a data-driven assessment set by an independent board. We are not asking for charity, we are asking for continuity, for the ability to provide or to continue providing accessible, nonpartisan, hyper-local coverage of government and community life. When a parent can't attend a school committee meeting, they watch it on our channel. When a senior can't leave home, we bring the town to their living room. When elections happen, we're the only place to find unbiased local information. This is what's at stake, not just programming, but public connection. On behalf of community media centers across Massachusetts, I urge you, support H106, H91, and S41. Help us to keep democracy visible. Thank you for your time.
I'm going to go with the short version. David Gott,
you agree?
president of Mass Access, here to speak, as you probably predicted, in support of H106, H91, and S41. You may have heard the argument that this legislation, if passed, would result in a windfall for community media, more than we could possibly need. The reality, though, is that a recent informal study by the Department of Revenue shows that funds collected through this bill would merely make up for what we've already lost from declining cable franchise fees, and would hopefully sustain funding as these fees continue to decline. This isn't about excess, it's about survival. Another perception is that this bill would burden your constituents financially, There is no law that I know of requiring companies to pass this cost down to consumers. And more importantly, if community media does not force change to its funding structure, the cost will shift to municipalities, placing that burden on all Massachusetts residents, not just those who utilize streaming services. Like many municipal services, community media works in the background and receives very little fanfare or notice until it's not there. The entertainment industry has certainly evolved over the years, yet the perception that community media has never experienced growth persists. It's unfair and it's ill-informed. We're not asking to reinvent the wheel. The system exists, the work is necessary, the impact is real. This is a simple change to the law to reflect changes in technology, so I respectfully urge you to support the passage of this act for the benefit of the people and the communities that we all serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative?
Good afternoon. Thank you for your testimony today and for the work that you do. You know, as you said, the cable subscribership and viewership is going down, which is having an impact on your bottom line. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of your members, including you know, a lot of our relative community stations, have actually seen an uptick in some of their subscribership or viewership in the various platforms. Because, you know, I can speak to at least Falmouth, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket community TVs have been really innovative in the way that they reach people, not just on cable, but on the internet, on social media, and basically an all of the above approach. So I'm wondering if Mass Access has any specific numbers related to increase in access and viewership of community content?
It's hard to say because we don't have access to any numbers on cable. We can certainly measure views online, but it's hard to make a comparison when you don't have data from one side of that. Right? So we do understand we've moved to that online presence because we're trying to meet the people where they are and make things accessible to people where they are. So I think all of us at this point, or most of the community media centers across the Commonwealth do have some sort of online presence and offering both on demand and social media type of video.
Thank you.
Sure.
And just if you don't mind, I want to just clarify that there isn't revenue on the streaming side. So even though people are accessing it through streaming, they are not. There's no revenue attached to it. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I'll let it go this time.
Yeah. Won't be the last.
Representative.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First, I want to acknowledge that I have a program on my local community access. I've had it for, since the beginning of COVID. I've got a friend smiling in the background. She's the one who put me up to it in the first place all those years ago. And I want to say that community media is more than just filling the holes left by the gap in local media. And it's more than just adding transparency and accessibility for the public with respect to local government. It's also a whole bunch of other really important programming that has nothing to do with either one of those things, but still adds values to the community. And I want to say that out loud because I know the advocates are trying to find the strongest arguments, but there are other arguments that they ought to be making as well, in my opinion. We've got great programming that is just fun. We have great programming that's artistic. We have great programming where people of all ages are learning the technical skills on putting together the programming, right? All of that's also important. I want to say that out loud because that hasn't been said yet. Maybe I've taken somebody else's thunder. I apologize. But I feel like everybody's really been stuck on these two facts. Well, I wanted to say it louder. And I also think it's the case, I don't want to speak for anyone but myself, but my hunch is everyone on this committee values community media and recognizes the decline in revenue and wants to find a replacement. I say all of that because the question, at least in my mind, I think in some others, is whether or not that revenue should come from streaming services or from some other place, right? And I say that because, the focus has been on why this is important and keep saying it until everybody agrees. But I think the people on this side of the room do agree, right? I think we need to think carefully about what the right source of that revenue is. For example, instead of streaming, what if we tax the ISPs themselves, right? If I don't have any streaming services because I watch it all on YouTube for free and I watch my Brookline Interactive Group programs on YouTube for free, I'm not generating any of that revenue, even though I am actually consuming those services because I'm using the internet, right? Whereas someone else might have 6 streaming services because, they got to have the Disney Plus and they got to have the Max, now called HBO Max again as of today, I think, right? And they got to have the Hulu and they got to have, right? So my point is simply that I think it would be healthy for us to talk about different opportunities for revenue rather than be stuck on streaming, because I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about different sources of revenue. And my guess is most of the folks here, if we told them we're just going to write you a check from the legislature every year, y'all would be like, thanks, and go home. It's not that you want to tax streaming, you want the money, right? So let's have a conversation about where the money should come from. It doesn't need to come from streaming. It could come from somewhere else. And I think that would be a conversation that I would like to have to actually ask a question. Am I correct in saying that if you guys were just getting a check with the money on it, you'd be perfectly happy? Like, do you need to tax streaming?
That's a difficult question to answer, frankly, because, we are looking for something that's sustainable and not something that we have to fight for every single year. And it is very much appreciated that thought would go into any revenue stream. Certainly, we're not going to say no to anything, right? But what we're trying to do is really to create that future. And it's not just the streaming services now, it's what happens after that. What becomes the next technology? So the big flaw with the federal funding is that they wrote all of this legislation under the term cable. And from day one, those cable companies have been trying to shirk those duties. So,
and municipalities have been keeping some of the money for themselves instead of passing it along. Like mine, for example, not to name names.
Well, that is their right to do so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions or statements?
I asked a question.
Okay, all right. I don't want to lose control of you guys. That's all.
These house members are really
So, not to throw a shot, but unlike our colleagues in Washington, we're not trying to defund public access.
Thanks.
So,
Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Dion.
Good afternoon. I am Elizabeth Dion, member of the Belmont Select Board, which unanimously supports S41 and H91. I'm joined by Jeff Hansel, Executive Director of the Belmont Media Center. Belmont's 27,000 residents rely heavily on the Belmont Media Center, or BMC, to provide access to their local government. Our town meeting has 300 members. We also have numerous town committees with another 300 plus volunteers. BMC is the media and communications hub for our government, schools, civic organizations, businesses, and the public. It is also a town technology hub, managing and maintaining all of the equipment used to broadcast various meetings, most notably town meeting. BMC is scrappy. Despite the reduction in cable TV franchise fees, it has expanded services through innovation, fundraising, and community volunteers. 3 days ago, my colleagues and I approved an agreement to move BMC operations into our new public library, again reducing BMC's annual expenses. But we need this bill to ensure BMC's long-term viability. Cable TV companies pay a franchise fee to our towns to rent or use our public rights-of-way and telecommunications infrastructure. And those fees come back to our towns to sustain community media centers. However, our laws and regulations have not kept pace with the evolving market for content delivery. We hear of people cutting the cord, but that's not really what's happening. Many of us use streaming services such as Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime. These streaming companies are using the same public infrastructure, and they are using it for free. That is not fair, and it degrades local government's ability to communicate with our constituents. Belmont's operating budget is tight. Despite passing an $8.4 million operating override last year, we continue to cut town staff. We don't have the money to cover lost franchise fees. Is this bill a new tax on consumers? In my opinion, it is a usage fee for public rights of way. It is a cost of doing business in our state, just as franchise fees are. What about the threats to raise rates on Massachusetts customers? First, streaming services will raise their subscription rates to the level the market will support, regardless of this bill, which adds a small fraction to their cost of doing business. Second, this bill is good public policy. It fixes an issue which Congress has yet to address, leveling the playing field between streaming services and cable TV providers, charging them both for use of public telecommunications infrastructure. Finally, it is poor public relations to threaten customers over a small usage fee. If streaming services provide me with high-quality content, I will continue to pay for their services. This bill is an efficient and elegant solution that tackles the problem it is intended to solve, directly supporting community media centers across the Commonwealth. I strongly encourage you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you window dressing or are you talking? You're more than welcome to speak if you'd like.
What she said.
I can say one thing. Sure. Is that right? Jeff Hansel, I'm the Executive Director of the Belmont Media Center. And I only bring this up because it just came up this week in our community in light of the tragedy in Texas and that we're in hurricane season. We've just started an initiative now, just to show you what you can do with this technology, to create an additional Belmont Public Safety Information Network that's going to address emergency management communications using all the technology we already have, combining those resources to provide something that the town needs and at no additional cost. And we're doing all that, under the current regime.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. So thank you for coming as a select board member in particular, and because I'm seeing that there's not a lot of you here on this list, I'm going to address this to you. A missing voice in this is support from the MMA. And I guess I would charge you, since you're the one that showed up here, with garnering more support about that, because they're pretty wishy-washy about it, and I think that would make a difference.
I did not know that. That is very useful information. I happen to sit on the board of WEMO, Women Elected Municipal Officials of and we're a subset of the MMA, and I will take that back to my colleagues.
Thank you.
Any questions? Oh, we have one more.
I'm going to just take the privilege, and this pains me as a Watertown resident to say, but I have to say Belmont Media Center has done great work.
Hear, hear.
And you forgot to say that you were, and I didn't realize you're moving to the new library, which looks fantastic. As we drive by, it looks like it's going to be fantastic. But a great meeting space, community meeting space, and a resource beyond just the work that you guys do, behind the camera and in front of the camera. But having that space as a resource for the community has been something that even across Belmont Street, I have taken note of. So thank you for the work that you do, and I apologize for not asking a question.
Thank you for your statement. Thank you very much. Next, we have Pedulla, Town of Chelmsford. Oh, virtual.
Yeah, virtual. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm Pete Pedulla. I'm the Executive Director of Chelmsford Telemedia. We're the Public Access Center in Chelmsford, Mass. You heard from our Senator Barrett at the head of this meeting, and you also heard from one of our reps, Jim Arciero, who both spoke in support of an act to modernize funding for community media programming, which is no surprise. I am asking a favorable review from you all as well. I'm not going to repeat a lot of, you've heard a lot of my colleagues and other people have testified about all the good things that our centers do around the state, and I agree with all of that. I'm just going to single out two things that haven't gotten quite as much attention that in Chelmsford we can talk about that we do. One was hit upon by Representative Moschino and also Representative Vitolo, and that is that in Chelmsford we have what we like to think of as like a vocational training program. We run a after-school program at the high school called CHS TV. So that does provide content. It provides all the concerts and those types of things that people love. But what's more important about that is staffed by students, and they learn a ton of skill, a lot of skills in working together to create these live productions. But what I'd like to emphasize is that I just have a short list of students that have come through our program and the jobs that they now hold today. So I'll just give you their titles. One is Senior Technical Lead in Global Production at Apple Music. One is a broadcast engineer at WCBB Channel 5 in Boston. Another is an engineer in charge at Game Creek Video. If you don't know, they make the trucks that go to the Garden, NFL, all these sporting events, the mobile production units, which we have one that they trained on, that woman trained on. Head of arena operations at Bentley University. That's all the video boards and stuff for the sporting events. And we also, these kids work together and they learn all the communication skills. So one of our alumni is also the Chief of Communications and Interoperability in the state of New Hampshire Emergency Services. A lot of that skills that he got was, all the communications that go into a live video productions, whether it's a sporting event or others. So I just wanted to point that out because I do think it's we've seen in Chelmsford 22% loss in funding. And so, if we were to cut out this TV program, it would kind of cut my heart out to have to do that. So thank you for your support and thanks for listening. I hope you give it a favorable recommendation.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So by temporary power granted to me today by the gavel, I am going to create a panel, unbeknownst to them. Sean Sayre, who is going to be virtual, and we're going to have Sam Pasquale from both of Pittsfield, and I'm hoping you are of the same opinion. So if you want to come up and testify, and if Sean wants to come on virtually.
We're actually advocating for two different bills.
Okay.
So I don't know if.
Well, go for it.
Okay. So Sean first.
Yep.
You there?
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Farley Bouvier, Chair Moore, and honorable members of the Joint Committee. My name is Sean Sayre. I'm the Executive Director of Pittsfield Community Television. Pittsfield, close enough to hit New York State with a rock, and occasionally we like to do that, especially when we have to spend 5 hours and 20 minutes on the turnpike getting to the State House or a Red Sox game. I think you can identify. Thanks for this opportunity to give testimony in favor of House Bill 106, House Bill 91, Senate Bill 41, an act to modernize funding for community media programming. I last testified to this committee 2 years ago in support of a similar bill. In only 2 years since that testimony, we have lost 12.4% of our cable revenue due to cable cord cutting. For us, this equals $87,529. The losses are accelerating and the pain is here now. Because of this, we had to eliminate one full-time employee out of 7 on our staff. That's while inflation is increasing our expenses, health insurance costs are going up 12 to 14% per year, and employees still need cost of living raises to pay their own bills. We simply can't keep up with this. And I'm hearing from other centers across the state that they are downsizing, closing buildings, selling off equipment. We're not there yet, but at some point, soon, we will need to evaluate what we will cut next. Will it be our building? Lose more staff? Yeah. What services will we have to stop providing? Something here is going to have to break. It's important to remember that our current funding model, in place for nearly 40 years, has allowed us to provide the community with local programming and services without requiring any city funding from Pittsfield. It's built on the fair principle that a company using the public's right-of-way should compensate the public for this use. And now that streaming has overtaken cable as the way that most people get their information and entertainment, something that we've also participated in as well, I ask that you take this step now to modernize the way these local services are provided and funded. It must be done at the state level. Going forward, without modernizing the funding, cities and towns will be faced with a hard choice: either pay for it with taxpayer funds or lose the services entirely. And this will lead to what I believe is a very uneven and inequitable distribution of local information, where wealthy communities will be able to afford to pay for it, and poorer and rural communities will be without it. We've been creative with our own fundraising efforts trying to make up for these cable losses, but we can't bake sale our way out of this. At some point, there needs to be a predictable and reliable method to fund our local programming, the impact of which is felt right here in Pittsfield. And doing some quick math, it's obvious to me that the revenue generated from streaming won't fully replace the cable revenue, not even close really, but it will be one tool that we can use to stay in business and be true to our mission. So I ask for your support on behalf of our organization and our Pittsfield community, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, and stand by until after the next testimony in case there's any questions. You're up.
My name is Samuel Pasquale. I'm the digital navigator at Pittsfield Community Television, and thank you so much, Representative Farley-Bouvier and Chair.
Sorry for that 5-hour ride.
It's okay. I'm actually here on a different bill for H100 for digital navigator credentialing. But I am housed at Pittsfield Community Television, and again, highlighting the great amount of resources that media centers can provide.
Alexander Lamach, who is in person.
Oh, can everyone hear me?
Oh, I guess you went to virtual.
Hello? I am virtual. My apologies. I could not make it to the State House this afternoon due to a couple of meetings to cover today.
Okay.
But to the honorable members of the Joint Committee, thank you for taking time to hear my testimony. My name is Alex Marsh, and I am the Director of Hadley Media, which is a community media center that is municipally ran by the town of Hadley and a 5,000 plus agricultural community. Today, I'm urging you to favorably pass H106, H91, and S41, and act to modernize funding for community media programming. We currently cover 15 plus municipal boards and committees, arts and culture programming, news business spotlights, Hobbs Academy, sports, and amongst other things. We have just finished drafting a municipal digital equity plan for the Massachusetts Broadband Institute, which we will help guide us into bridging the town's digital divide and improve many lives in town. Because we are a municipal department in town, we run a bit differently. Just like our nonprofit neighbors, we receive franchise fees from the cable company. But when it comes to taking in donations or wanting to monetize our YouTube channel, we simply can't because of legalities and mitigating any potential risk that could harm the town legally. We are strapped to our cable franchise fees, which will dwindle as subscribers continue to cut the cord. Next year, I predict our YouTube subscribers will pass 1,000 and our cable subscribers will dip below 1,000. That's half of all dogs in the town of Hadley. Not to mention that our cable provider, Charter Spectrum, is not offering cable to new subscribers or subscribers who want to upgrade. If you go to their website and you click on cable TV, you'll get more streaming options, or actually only streaming options on their website. So we will not have a chance for new subscribers to help with our bottom line. We need help to continue the important work that we do, and we need it now. We only have enough funding to last us until half of fiscal year 2028. For a small station, we are robust. The community appreciates our work, and I'm sure our community would be devastated to see its local institution go black. Hadley is a proud agricultural community. I'm sure you bought produce from time to time that was grown in Hadley without knowing. Some of our produce is sold to Boston Public Schools and Springfield Public Schools, which help many low-income families through generous state and federal programs. Well, more state now. I'm sure many don't worry about knowing where their produce comes from. However, we have to worry about where our community media, how long our community media centers have to survive and what revenue we're going to get. I urge the Joint Committee to vote these bills out of committee favorably. Do this for our livelihoods, do this for our communities, do this for the greater good. I want to thank the Joint Committee for taking time to hear my testimony, and feel free to ask any questions about my operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I think you're safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have representatives from Westwood Media Center, Urban Media Arts, and Westford Community Access Television. So please introduce yourselves as you speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Fletcher, and I'm the Executive Director of Westford's Community Access Television Station. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We are facing an economic emergency. The 250 Massachusetts community media stations are collapsing. This is a $104 million industry employing over 1,000 residents. The cable subscriptions have crashed 50% in 5 years, destroying the funding that sustained 269 community media stations across every district that you represent. We're watching the systematic elimination of businesses averaging over $417,000 in annual expenses and about nine employees at each station averaging. This isn't just about media. It's about economic devastation rippling through every community. The economic domino effect when stations close is that skilled workers lose their jobs, local equipment vendors lose hundreds of thousands in sales, professional service providers, the CPAs, contractors, maintenance workers, they lose steady clients. Property owners lose reliable tenants, and communities lose their economic anchors. The reality is we're losing everything. Right now, camera operators in Springfield are job hunting, producers in Acton are looking out of state, equipment suppliers in Worcester are watching their customer base evaporate. And these are your constituents, and they're losing their livelihoods. They're disappearing. Massachusetts built the nation's largest community media network. 269 stations that were economic success stories. Now we're systematically destroying this achievement through inaction. H91 and S41 are our last chance. These bills aren't about new revenue. They're about preventing economic catastrophe. They represent the only viable path to restore stable revenue streams before we lose this industry forever. Without this legislation, over 1,000 jobs disappear permanently. $104 million economic activity vanishes. Decades of workforce development gets destroyed. Local economies lose critical anchors. The choice is binary. We can act now to save 1,000 jobs and over $104 million in economic activity, or we can watch it all disappear forever. The businesses that use our public infrastructure to reach Massachusetts consumers must pay their fair share, not as a windfall, but as the economic lifeline determining whether this industry survives or dies. Every day without action brings us closer to permanent loss. Please vote yes on H91 S41. Don't let Massachusetts throw away $104 million in economic activity because we failed to modernize outdated funding models. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, chairs and thank you. Chairs and the members of the committee. My name is Tina Lagarde. I'm the Executive Director of Urban Media Arts in Malden. UMA is Malden's Community Media Center, a vital civic resource offering access to technology, creative tools, and educational opportunities for community members of all ages and backgrounds. And we've been proudly serving our community for over 30 years. But today I'm here to tell you, our model is breaking. UMA's cable franchise revenue dropped 23% in just the last 3 years alone. The impact of cord cutting isn't hypothetical. It's a financial crisis that's already here. And it's dismantling the infrastructure of community media. Just last month, I was forced to make one of the hardest decisions of my career. I eliminated 3 full-time staff members at my facility. We lost our associate director, a 34-year veteran who helped build UMA from the ground up, launched our art gallery, creating a decade-long citizen journalism program in partnership, with our community and local colleges, and trained hundreds in community storytellers, and served as our accessibility coordinator. We lost our director of operations, who served for 25 years, maintaining our equipment and facilities, producing thousands of hours of civic coverage, launching our podcast services, and building a bridge with our gaming community. And we also lost our director of marketing, who led our digital presence, built a citywide event calendar initiative, and created inclusive pathways to engagement for communities often left out of traditional media narratives. Together, these cuts saved us $230,000 annually, but at what cost? Their responsibilities now fall on just 3 remaining full-time staff and 1 part-timer. We kept the lights on this year, but without structural funding reform, we might not be able to continue doing it. Despite aggressive fundraising and development efforts, grants, sponsorships, donor campaigns, it's simply not enough to close the growing deficit caused by declining cable revenue. That's why we need your support on bills H106, H91, and S41. They aren't just policy ideas, they're a lifeline. These bills would modernize funding for community media in the streaming era, recognizing that local access, civic transparency, and digital inclusion must not be lost to outdated funding models. UMA's story is not unique, but we want to be part of a better future. We want to continue being Malden's hub for creativity, dialogue, and democracy. Please pass these bills favorably and help us ensure that community media doesn't disappear with a cable cord. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairpersons, members of the community, my name is Melinda Garfield, and I serve as the Executive Director of Westwood Media Center for the past 10 years. I'm also a member of Mass Access Board. I submit this testimony in strong support of H106, H91, and S41. Westwood Media Center is a nonprofit PEG organization that serves the town of Westwood since 2007. While we may be a younger organization that some of our counterparts that had established shortly after the Cable Act of '84, we became an essential provider of local government meeting coverage, high school sports, community events, and educational training in video and digital media production. Despite efforts to diversify revenue through production services, facility rentals, sponsorships, and donations, our funding continues to decline at an alarming rate due to the drop of cable subscriptions. Over the past 5 years, Westwood has lost 1,277 cable subscribers. In fact, our current subscriber count is now lower than it was when Comcast and Verizon first entered the town in 2007. This decline has translated into nearly $60,000 reduction in our operating budget. As of July 1, just a few days ago, Westwood Media Center can no longer afford to maintain our studio and our office space due to this budget shortfall. We are currently without a permanent facility. Our live municipal meetings are now being produced from a 300 square foot former jail cell in the basement of Town Hall, and our reduced staff is operating remotely. As we approach the busy fall season, I am deeply concerned about our ability to continue delivering the high-quality services our community relies on and deserves. On behalf of the staff, board, and residents of Westwood, I respectfully urge this committee to report these bills favorably, and Westwood Media Center is not alone. PEG centers across the Commonwealth are facing similar financial challenges, and the time to modernize the funding structure is now. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Your testimony is really compelling. Thank you for being here.
Next is virtual Seth Albaum.
All right. Good afternoon, honorable members of the Joint Committee. Thank you for your time. I'm Seth Albaum, Executive Director of the award-winning Lynn Community Television. Lynn is a diverse gateway city of over 100,000 people, many of whom cannot afford cable. And like Pittsfield, we're at a precipice. There's been a very sharp decline in cable subscriptions in our city, and therefore franchise agreement funds that are allocated to us. So our mission at LCTV, however, remains to connect residents with city government, nonprofits, and the arts, and to offer digital equity in an economically diverse city. But with the steep revenue decline and a very lean budget, we can no longer afford rent. We're currently located in a very accessible storefront in a downtown shopping plaza. The rent has gone up to way too high. So we're searching for a new space in a city where accessible and suitable locations are scarce. At the same time, we're digging into limited reserves to keep going. Reserves we also need to pay for the move. We're cutting back. One full-time staffer moved away, so that made things a little easier. We didn't refill the role. Another has gone part-time. Weekday hours at the studio are reduced so that we can still cover essential community events. And the deadline to find a new location is fast approaching. We could very much, I don't know what we'd operate out of. We haven't been offered a space by anyone. If we find a space, we'll likely cut our square footage in half and end up in a less successful part of Lynn as well. Still, I want to say in 2024, our members produced 323 shows and episodes in Spanish and English. Staff covered 141 community events for LCTV News, award-winning LCTV News, I should say. And we covered 208 municipal meetings. And that was while we operated at a $63,000 deficit. FY25, no better. FY26 looks worse. The rain is outlasting the rainy day fund, and it's raining harder. We've kept up with our audiences. 2/3 of our viewers watch on their phones. They're streaming city council, streaming school committee, on YouTube, Facebook, and lintv.org. There are 3 ways to watch us online simultaneously. Our website translates contents into 12 languages and carries programming in Spanish, English, Haitian Creole, and Khmer. Our LCTV News local election coverage is already underway for the September preliminary and November election. And there's no other. We have a daily newspaper, but it's getting thinner and thinner. That is how people find out their information. We host candidate forums ourselves. Our technology has outpaced the cell phone. Our cameras record in 4K. Our studio hosts podcasts, film screenings, and events, and we have a computer lab with robust broadband. And with a limited use grant, we launched a bilingual digital literacy program that teaches computer skills and loans out Chromebooks. But that grant doesn't fund our rent, government meeting coverage, or access to the audiovisual production tools that create modern digital equity. Municipalities haven't closed the funding gap, and they can't. Foundations aren't supporting community media, and I don't know why. Sponsorships are a trickle despite our best efforts. Now we need support that reflects today's media reality. And we've modernized here at LCTV.
Seth, we're going to have to ask you to hurry up.
Sorry, thank you. We ask for your support on H91, H106, and S41 so that we may continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Thank you very much. And next we have a panel. from Fitchburg Access Television and Focus Springfield. So I did just announce who you are when you speak. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I'm Stephen Carey from Focus Springfield TV in support of H106, 91, and S41. I feel like I'm on Sesame Street when I say I'm here for the letter G. In PEG, it stands for government. We don't have a long history. Focus Springfield has been around for 10 years, but we made up for lost time. Initially, we were known for our coverage of sports, especially basketball, a little plug for the invention in Springfield. Since March of 2020, however, we're known for municipal meeting coverage. Back when Zoom was new. They were scary days in 2020. We quickly realized that our city couldn't function if commissions, councils, and other open meeting laws waited it out. Focus Springfield worked with elected officials to meet or exceed OML requirements. In the past year, we've aired over 1,600 hours of government meetings. When we began in 2014, I looked around and noticed most of the equipment was the same as when I was an intern in the 80s. The locks were to keep the museum curators out. We started visiting established PEG stations, and that convinced us that we needed to invest heavily in technology. We're all geeks. I could talk to you all day about the equipment. I promise I won't. In December 2020, we realized how lucky we were that we invested. Springfield Public Schools wanted us to air a town hall, and people are concerned about learning loss, fears of returning to the classrooms. There's a lot of bad information and rumors around the city. The school department provided experts to share vetted information and have real Q&A, time for real-time Q&A to address additional concerns from families. We're a diverse city. We've got about 40,000 students. The effort was to broadcast in 8 languages. And frankly, we were scared to death. We didn't know how to do it. We pulled it off, and it started something really big. Schools established support groups. They had interpreters work with families. Homework, health tips were delivered to homes. By the end of that school year, over 1 million meals were served to homes. The engagement continues today. In the 5 years since, those interpreters are able to be replaced by this kind of system of subtitles. Shout out to State House News. I tell this story because engaging with these families was probably the most rewarding thing I've done in 40 years of television. Remote participation, live translations, they're all here to stay. The AI advancements in technology is absolutely amazing, but it's not cheap. In 2014, our annual budget was $1.2 million. We're down to about $550,000 now. I'm not asking you to vote in favor of this bill for me or for Focus Springfield, and really for all of us. A way to look at it is good government engagement in cities. Towns like Springfield have to continue. We don't know what the future holds or how we need to communicate with our residents. And 10 more seconds, I promise, whether covering legislation, following a basketball team to state championships, or battling a pandemic, it's all important work, especially while local news is just waning. So I'm asking you to support it, not because it's nice, but I think it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, co-chairs Farley Bouvier, Moore, and joint committee members. My name is Nathan Glennie, executive director of Fitchburg Access Television, which took 90 minutes, I'm sorry, to get here today in Boston. I am here to support H106, H91, and S41. Since 1987, FATV provides our 42,000 residents with a direct media connection to our community. In 2020, we tripled the hours of hyperlocal community programming and featured nearly 700 hours of media content in 2024. But since 2016, Fitchburg has seen a 40% linear decrease of cable franchise fees to what is now $250,000 less than what we had a decade ago. FATV does not receive general funds from the city of Fitchburg, nor would that even be feasible. Our gateway city is already faced with inflation and growing needs, including all those lovely potholes. In FY27, the city will have to have tough talks of budget cuts. They're not going to add another line item for PEG services to their general fund. We urgently need your advocacy to support this bill. Otherwise, vital PEG services will be facing cuts and will provide less information to the communities that we all proudly serve. PEG services should be viewed as a public necessity, as well as a foundational right towards democracy. We broadcast over 300 annual hours from 20 different legislative bodies. FATV facilitates a secure remote participation option for Fitchburg constituents. We also provide real-time closed captioning in English and Spanish to foster an inclusive yet informative community. This is a true testament on how transparent municipal governments should operate for greater civic participation. FATV has now become the only reliable and trusted source for local municipal meetings, debates, elections that are coming up this fall, and its results that we produce in 75 minutes from polls closing. These connections to our residents is an integral part of an informed and democratic election process. If a funding solution isn't realized soon, community media stations will close, and that's a fact. And oh, by the way, the local newspapers who watch us to report upon it, it's going to be even more of news deserts. In closing, I urgently request this committee's swift and favorable recommendation of these bills. We should assure the residents of the Commonwealth that we want you to be informed, connected, and included in civic pride and participation. This bill makes sense for Massachusetts residents and why we need to get this bill across the finish line. Thank you for your time today, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandra Harris, Massachusetts Coalition to Build Community and End Loneliness. Very nice to see you again.
Chair Moore, Chair Farley-Bouvier, and members of the Joint Committee. My name is Sandra Harris, and I am the co-founder and co-leader of the Massachusetts Coalition to Build Community and End Loneliness, a statewide network working to ensure that all residents of the Commonwealth feel connected to their community and enjoy a strong sense of social health. I am also host to Connect, a monthly community media program, which is soon to enter its 4th year. And I am here to urge you to favorably pass Senate Bill number 41 and House Bill number 91, an act to modernize funding for community media programming. Connect was created to tackle the isolation and lack of accessible information we observed during the early days of COVID-19, especially among older adults, people living in rural areas, and those who just cannot afford community or cable television. We were especially worried about the poor digital outreach, such as online-only access to vaccine appointments, that excluded many individuals without internet access, devices, or digital literacy. In a society rapidly becoming digital, we must ensure that no one is left behind. Community television helps to bridge that gap. It connects with people who are often unseen by mainstream media, those who are relying on community television for trustworthy local information. Former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy described us as a lonely nation. And just last month, the World Health Organization, commissioned on social health, issued a landmark report identifying loneliness as a global public health priority and calling on all of us to take action now to help build a more connected world. Members of the Joint Committee, I am proud to say that Massachusetts is already responding to that call. Community media programming has been a vital partner of the Massachusetts Coalition to Build Community and Loneliness in making this happen. Connect offers more than just background entertainment. It fosters real connection. We highlight resources, share strategies to combat loneliness, offer tips for healthier and happier living, and provide information and resources for living with Alzheimer's and related dementia. We encourage neighbors to check on one another. We offer strategic methods or roles for managing the holiday and winter blues. But most importantly, we offer hope. From caregivers to young people, we promote the power of intergenerational relationships. This partnership doesn't just inform, it uplifts. It includes, it heals, and it connects. Please modernize funding for media programming. In doing so, you help to invest in public health, equity, and in the kind of the Commonwealth where everyone is seen, valued, and recognized. Let's answer the call. Let's show the world what Massachusetts can do to ensure that no resident feels invisible or alone in the neighborhood they call home. Thank you for your time, for your service and your support, and thank you for taking positive action to modernize funding for community programming.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I just really want to thank Sandra for your work. I think your work is incredibly important, and it brings a new and different voice to this issue, and it's very valuable. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay, next is a virtual Nell Forgax, League of Women Voters.
Good afternoon. I'm Nell Forgas, Legislative Specialist for the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. I'm also a resident of Sudbury and a big fan of Sudbury TV. I would like to thank Chair Moore, Chair Farley-Bouvier, and the honorable members of this committee for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the League and our 44 local leagues serving over 100 communities from Cape Cod to the Berkshires in support of H91, S41, an act to modernize community media funding. The League believes that it is of the highest priority that we secure the funding future, emphasis on secure, of our local community access stations. Many speakers today, including Representatives Machino and Scarsdale, members of this committee, and officers from Mass Access, have noted the positive impact of these stations in our communities. The League concurs with the many important points that previous speakers have made. The League of Women Voters believes that democratic government and a healthy democracy depends upon the informed and active participation of its citizens at all levels of government, and that governmental bodies must protect the citizens' right to know. Your constituents rely on their local community access stations to stay informed and to participate in their local government. No one, not even those who work in local government, can attend every meeting in person, especially given that many meetings are scheduled at the same time. Massachusetts municipalities rely on community access stations to broadcast, stream, record, and preserve town meetings, town forums, public hearings, and innumerable board, committee, subcommittee, commission, and council meetings for the public. Your constituents also rely on the Leagues of Women Voters around the state and their partnerships with their local community access stations. Together, we produce and make widely available programs that support an active and informed electorate. League programs consistently rank among community media stations' highest watched video on demand programming. Community media programming is integral to informed and active participation in local government, but will not survive unless the way in which we fund it is updated. We all heard the emotion of the previous speakers whose stations are collapsing. The League believes that passage of this bill is an urgent and intelligent investment in the future of our democracy. As Representative Machino asserted, funding has hit a critical tipping point, and this bill is timely, relevant, and ready. Demand for services are up, but funding is down. We urge you to pass this bill swiftly and favorably before it is too late and stations begin to not just downsize, but to close. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Now, any questions from the members of the committee? Thank you, and thank you to the League for your strong partnership on data privacy and all things good government. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terrific. We now go to Stephanie Sarah from NCTV. And I don't know if Bobby is part of that panel also. Stephanie?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Stephanie.
Hi there. My name is Steph Sarah, and I'm the Director of Programming and Grant Writer at Nantucket Community Television. I am testifying in support of House Bill 106, House Bill 91, and Senate Bill 41 from home today with my 3-year-old nearby. So if you hear a growing voice off screen, that's just part of the reality so many of us are living. Nantucket Community Television serves as one of the most we serve one of the most remote communities in the Commonwealth on Nantucket, an island 30 miles out to sea. Community connection is not just a convenience. Public media access is essential to our well-being, our democracy, and our sense of belonging. I imagine that being on the receiving end of our individual testimonies in support of these bills, it might begin to blend together, but that's the power of independent voices. When layered, they form something greater, a multifaceted perspective that becomes a unified call for what our communities need. At NCTV, our mission is to empower Nantucket voices. We create original programming that supports mental health, intergenerational connection, civic participation, and community identity. Our programs champion the power of creative expression, especially in today's climate. We are the Nantucket platform for teenagers finding their voice. We preserve elder wisdom through oral history traditions and children's programming. We bring meetings, celebrations, workshops, high school sports, broadcasting filmed by and featuring students to those who can't always be in the room. NCTV is a small but mighty team, and what makes us essential is the trust we have earned from our community to serve them in these ways. I believe in the power of community-led storytelling as a healing art. That is why I chose to testify in support of these bills. We also have the unanimous support of our town and county select board. These bills are not abstract to us, they're personal. They're about making sure local voices don't get drowned out in the distance by disconnection or by profit margins. These bills are about empowering public access media to continue showing up again and again for the people who count on us. So thank you, not just for your time, but for your presence in hearing and reading each of our testimonies. My community is watching, and just as I hold space for them, you are holding space for all of us by listening. In that spirit, I invite the committee to publicly affirm your support for these bills today or in the days ahead, so that communities like mine know that we are not standing alone. With peace and progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to now move on to Bobby Planzer, also virtually.
Thank you very much. Oh, should I go now?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Bobby Planzer. I am also here on behalf of NCTV. Good afternoon, Chairs Farley, Bouvier, and Moore, and members of the committee. My name is Bobby Planzer, and I'm a talk show host with Nantucket Community Television, where I proudly host my show, Bobbing Around Town, for the past 10 years. I started the show in 2015 with my late Uncle Warren. When he passed away in 2018, I made it my mission to continue the show in his memory. NCTV has made it possible. Every episode, they help me with filming, editing, and making sure my show reaches the community. Through NCTV's support, including a small but meaningful $100 an episode that I earn through NCTV's budget, I've been able to share local stories, connect with the people of Nantucket, and continue to our island's creative voice. Without this legislation, I honestly don't know if I'll be able to continue. I would hate to lose the platform that I love. Bill S41 and 8, House Bill 91, is crucial to protecting community media across Massachusetts. With more people streaming instead of using cable, our funding is drying up, and stations like NCTV can't survive on hope alone. Please give this bill a favorable report so that people like me and so many others on Nantucket and across the Commonwealth can keep doing what we love, sharing voice, stories, perspectives that truly reflect our community. Thank you for your time, for your consideration to this important legislation, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby and Stephanie from Nantucket TV. Senator Sierra and I had the pleasure of joining one of your high school hosts just a few weeks ago to appear on one of your programs. So not only for your programming and the creativity related thereto, but also for your advocacy on this. It was actually through NCTV that I first heard about this bill. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, next we have Glenn Williams, Boston Neighborhood Network.
Good afternoon. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you for having us on. I also want to thank all of my comrades in arms here. Not really in arms, but you know what I mean. Other peg hats. My name is Glenn Williams. I'm the general manager of Boston Neighborhood Network. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to talk just a couple of seconds about the impact we have. We've heard a lot about what we need and what's going to happen, and we need this, that, and the other thing. But I want to talk about what happens to our community. The news, 4, 5, and 7, everybody sees it. The first 25 minutes of it is this kid got killed, this building burnt down, this country's trying to ruin this other country. Then the last 5 minutes, they talk about a cow they found that has a picture of Elvis on its side. We've decided not to do that. What we do is we make sure that we get every city councilor in the studio here and we have them talk about what's great about being a Bostonian. What's so important about being from one of the 22 different sections of the city, and how fun it is to be a Bostonian. The other thing is we all cover football games and all of that. Well, a few years back, a couple of seasons back, we had a football game and was coming to the end of the game, and I'm sorry, no? Okay. Was coming to the end of the game and everyone gets to play. They put the little kid in there and he miraculously puts his hand up in the air, pulls the ball down and goes back for a touchdown. Right out of Rudy, right? One of our cameramen rushes down, sticks a camera in his face and interviews him. Didn't get a lot out of him. A week later, I got an email from his grandfather telling me that this kid is mostly nonverbal. And the fact that we put him on TV and we made a big fuss out of him, he now walks around talking about what a great experience it was for him. We also get emails from grandparents from all over the country that come and tell us about how great it was for them to see their grandchildren graduate from high school. How important it was for Senator Nick Collins to have his St. Patrick's Day breakfast. We made sure we put it live on TV so that everybody can see our politicians, regardless of the side, regardless of the issues, spend time with each other and be human and have a good time. It's so important. I'm almost done. I'm sure on the way in today, or if you looked out your window, you saw our truck parked outside Boston Neighborhood Network. What we were doing there at the State House was covering the Year of Compassion, a tribute to some people, some religious organizations in the Dalai Lama that we partnered with Tibet and put it live on TV in Tibet. None of this will happen unless H91, H106, and the Senate gets together on 41. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure listening to all of my colleagues talk to you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. questions? No. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Karen Hayden and Nancy Albertson.
Thank you very much. I'm just glad I didn't have to follow Glenn Williams. My name is Karen Hayden. I'm the Executive Director of Methuen Community Studios for almost 23 years. And in that time, I have seen that community media centers can change lives. We work with residents who want to tell their stories, cover issues, and do other important work. And each community has its own special story to tell. We've had a few. A local volunteer who led the effort to gather personal stories of World War II through Gulf War veterans, which would have been lost. Call to Serve interviews now reside in the Library of Congress due to these efforts. When drug addiction was still very much kept in the shadows, a local man and his daughter, a recovering addict, came to the studio to talk openly about this issue. When they came to the state legislature and lobbied for additional support for people in recovery, they said that the show was one of the reasons why some of your colleagues listened to them, because it gave legitimacy to the issues. 2 people with disabilities came in to produce a program to talk about disabled parking laws, traveling, being in relationships, finding the right help. They did not have the resources to do this on their own. And as the host says, these programs have relevance for everyone because we are all just one accident away from being in the same situation. We've worked with young people who want to learn the skills, real skills on how to produce effective media. They are going to be the ones running the media in the future. Who's going to teach them how to be a journalist, how to tell the truth, how to frame a story so that it is fair to both sides of an issue? This summer, we are working with the students at the Methuen Youth Center, helping them learn to use the tools and methods to amplify their voices, and this is very important to them. They are a real example of leadership in this generation, and we must support them. We know that the technology has changed, and that's why people have dropped their cable subscriptions in favor of streaming. In Methuen, from 22 to 23, we lost 11.3% of the subscriptions, and in 24, it was another 11.2%. How do we keep going? The need for local information and a place to connect with community has not changed. In fact, it's probably bigger now that we've had COVID, and it kept us apart for so long. We're seeing more people, volunteers, coming back to the station. New people are getting involved right now, creating new shows, changing more lives. It's not the time to shut it off. Please help us out by supporting H106, S41, and H91. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nancy Albertson, and I am the Executive Director of Billerica Access Television, or BATV, and we are the nonprofit community media center serving the town of Billerica, Mass. I'm here today in strong support of H.106, H.91, and S.41 bills that would modernize funding for community media and help ensure that PEG access centers like ours, like BATV, can continue to serve our communities and towns in meaningful, sustainable ways. BATV has proudly been serving Billerica for over 35 years, providing full coverage of local local government meetings to keep residents informed and engaged, educational opportunities for students and adults through workshops, internships, and hands-on training, free access to media tools, and support, as well as meeting space for nonprofits, civic groups, and individuals, and a platform for local stories, cultural, and civic connection that simply wouldn't be told anywhere else. A few years ago, BATV was invited to be part of a unique partnership. The town of Billerica approached us to take part in a building project that would restore a historic school building in town. It was built in 1852. It's called the House School Building. It was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2002, but sat vacant and deteriorating for years. Thanks to CPA funding, Billerica Town Meeting support, and BATV's capital investment, we were able to help preserve a beautiful historic building and transform it into a fully restored community media center and meeting house. We now lease the building from the town and operate right in the heart of Billerica Center, steps from Town Hall, the library, and the senior center. None of this would have been possible without PEG funding from cable franchise fees. That funding gave us the ability to commit to a lease with the town of Billerica, a long-standing lease, partner with the town on a building preservation project, and continue to provide community resources and media services at no cost to the public. Unfortunately, in recent years, we've seen a substantial decline in cable franchise revenue, and the continuing downward trend is threatening our ability to maintain staff, produce programming, and even cover our lease of this beautiful historic building. This is more than just a financial issue. It's a threat to the infrastructure our community depends on for government access, media education and literacy, and local identity in our town. That's why I'm urging you to give favorable support to H.106, H.91, and S41. These bills would modernize the outdated funding model and ensure that streaming providers contribute their fair share to the communities they serve. Community access stations, AITV, and PEG centers across the Commonwealth are not relics of the past. We are a vital part of our community's stories, and just like the beautiful historic Howe building, proud home of Billerica Access Television, we're worth preserving. Thank you for your time and support.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan Coleman. Okay. Peter L. I think it's Williams.
Yes, thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm right here. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. I applaud and recognize your work. It's yeoman's work and not always recognized. I'm Albert Williams. I'm the director of Northampton Open Media in Northampton, Mass. And I'm here to speak to two bills, H91/S41 and also H100. Those are the Act to Modernize Funding for PEG Programming and Credentialing for Digital Navigators. I know you've heard a lot of different things today, so I'm just going to try to touch on some things we do that are maybe a little bit different. Some outcomes. One is a student program we run. We provide all of the capital funding for an in-curriculum program inside of our Northampton Public School program. Cameras, tripods, lights, microphones, software licenses. That program wins 5 to 6 regional student Emmy Awards every single year. It's won the National High School Film of the Year Award, the National High School Film Director of the Year Award, the Best Editor in the Nation Award. There are tons of students who work professionally out of the program, and it never would exist without us and would go away if we were to go away. We're also an essential arts organization in our community. We've given out over $100,000 in grants in the last decade to emerging multimedia filmmakers. We've helped launch the career of a filmmaker who's gone on to win the New England Filmmaker of the Year. We launched the film production career of a then houseless man, excuse me, who's since screened at the Sundance Film Festival. We run a community-wide program called Crowdsource Cinema in its 11th year that remakes a famous Hollywood feature film every year. So we've remade Raiders of the Lost Ark, we've remade Star Wars, The Princess Bride, we remade Castaway during the pandemic, Toy Story, Back to the Future. Our local newspapers participated, our local governments have participated, families, neighbors, professional, kids of all ages, summer art programs, local musicians and composers. We remake the entire film from scratch. We're not just a government transparency organization, we're an arts organization and an education organization, and more importantly, we're a community organization. We operate beyond television in the old legacy sense, so funding us through television no longer makes sense. There aren't other organizations with both the fluency in technology and with the connection to community that PEG Media has. To that end, because of that unique position, we're also involved in digital equity work. We are a partner with the 200-member Alliance for Digital Equity in the 4 counties of Western Mass. We have a full-time digital navigator who spoke to you earlier, who teaches now essential digital life skills that you've already been told about. These have fundamental and deep personal impact to the people around us. It's brought new people into our fold. We're interacting with nonprofit organizations in new ways, and we're doing pioneering work. So I'm asking the state to support this work. We need the statewide credentialing program to continue to codify and professionalize the emerging digital navigator field, and we need to ensure future sustainability of PEG media. I want to add there's multiple ways forward to funding PEG or community media, and that's been touched upon, but this is an emergency. We've lost half of our subscriber base in the last 20 years. Some people might say 25% of funding, but that's not inflation adjusted. This is something we need a solution to now. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much.